Hello everyone and welcome back to my recreation of the original Jurassic Park in Jurassic World Evolution. Gonna be basing this park mostly on what we see in the movies as well as some online sources and your help, so please continue to leave your comments down below with your suggestions on how to improve on what I've built so far. And we're gonna do a bonus episode in which I'm going to make those improvements to the park. In this episode I'll mostly be focusing on making the part of the park that we see in the movie where Nedry has his unfortunate encounter with the Dilophosaurus. That's something I'm going to be tweaking with in this episode, and also we're going to be doing some exhibits, and we're going to start on the part of the tour that goes by the Tyrannosaurus Exhibit. I hope you've been watching the previous episodes of this park building series, and I hope you've been enjoying them, or at least finding them informative in some way. And if you don't want to miss out on the other episodes, please consider subscribing to the channel so you'll see this entire park build and the finishing tour, of course, of the end result. If you ring the bell to turn on notifications, you will get notified of when a new upload will happen. I will be uploading everything before Christmas, so you know we're moving at a quick pace here. We're doing a lot of work. Also, it would be really awesome if you could help me reach the next milestone for the channel, which is 2,500 subscribers. That is mind-boggling that to even talk about stuff like that, but that'd be really cool if you'd help me out with that. You know, it is the holidays, it is my birthday and stuff coming up. It would be cool. But even still, I'm just gonna be continuing this park build and, you know, do it to the best of my abilities. As been said, I have been struggling with figuring out which dinosaurs are actually supposed to be part of the park. Even people who are commenting are not necessarily agreeing on everything. So I think I need to do some of my own interpretations, or maybe just include every one of the dinosaurs that get mentioned. I'm not sure. For example, some people are really convinced that the Metricanthosaurus was part of it, and other people aren't. I'm just so confused at this point. I don't know anymore. So we'll see what happens in the bonus episode. But for now, let's just focus on what we have to work with at this point. I'm going to complete the access road that's going to go down to the east dock, which Nedry, of course, follows. I just realized that Nedry doesn't necessarily in my park come through the main gate. I mean, he could, of course, but it would be a bit of a detour. Let's just assume he takes a bit of a detour. You know, he's been established as getting lost quite a bit in the movie, so let's just assume that's what happens. So I'm lowering this back bit. This is going to be the part where he has his run-in with the Dilophosaurus. Of course, his jeep gets stuck on like a little raised ridge, and the road he actually has to follow is down below. So that's what I'm recreating over here. As I've said before, unfortunately, my river leads to a landlocked section of the map, or of the island rather, beyond the buildable area. That is unfortunate, but that's just the way I designed this park. I didn't really take into account what's beyond the buildable area. I just went with what was the best way to get the most out of the space. So let's just assume that the river continues beyond the buildable area and actually ends at the east dock. That's, in my headcanon, that's how this park is laid out. I'm having a think right now about what to do, what to add. Do something, woman? It's so weird watching yourself play this. Okay, so I'm extending it out just a little bit, giving myself a little bit more space to work with, I'm guessing. I do think I'm going to change this up later anyway. But we are completing this part of the park in this video, so don't worry. You're gonna see me go back and forth quite a bit, but we will finish this part of the park in this video. It is going to be a very long video. I do hope that I can make some edits along the way. I'll have to figure out where I can make some cuts that don't make the overall video disingenuous about what I've been doing. So, you know, it might end up being a video of over 40 minutes long. I apologize. There, so I'm bringing it back up again. So, with the way the tour is laid out and with the path that I have planned for Nedry to take, he does cross the tour tracks. That's a little bit unfortunate, but you know, it's not necessarily against movie canon. We don't actually see if he crosses the tour tracks or not. It's very possible that he does. I mean, he does at some point go over the tour tracks when he goes through the park gate anyway, the big flaming gate. So that still works. So I'm extending that part of the path over there, and I'm bringing it down south, or southeast, I suppose. And you know, since the jeeps can go through water, he can just cross over the river. I really wish we would be able to add bridges. That would be so cool. Deleting some shrubbery so the dirt texture actually shows up, you know, all that jazz. I'm trying to figure out what I want to do, how logically it would work out. Because of course he, in the movie, he comes charging towards a sign, a split in the road, and he runs over the sign. So that's just something I'm trying to replicate over here. So I'm going to make a fork in the road, and one of the ways is the one he's supposed to go, but he doesn't figure that out until it's too late. So this right road is sort of more like a surface road that's going to go to the exhibit on the right, which at the moment is designated as a Stegosaurus exhibit, but I might have to change that based on what I actually decide to do with the dinosaur roster for this park. I still haven't made up my mind yet. And then the road to the left actually it goes a little bit to the left and then curves down and goes straight across, and that would be the road that actually leads to the east dock, as we saw in the movie. Because when he gets stuck with his jeep on that ridge, he actually sees the road right down from him. So I think that was the best way to go about it. Again, unfortunately, the terrain tools are in a way that you can't really make a steep ledge, and unfortunately also no waterfall. So I don't think I drag the river down there, but I do add a little bit of water down there, making it a little bit wet. Don't make it dirty. Now I didn't go back into the movie to check this, but I think that when he sees the road that goes to the east dock, and he's like, oh yeah, that's where I need to go. There's even a sign by it. I think that leads into a tunnel. I don't really remember, but that's just what I had in my head. So that's sort of what I meant to do with raising the terrain on either side of that road, is just to kind of mimic the look of a tunnel that the road is going to a tunnel that the road is going to go into. Oh, here comes the helicopter. So I've raised the edge up a little bit to mimic where he gets stuck. And now adding just some rock. Oh, I do bring the river down a little bit. Okay. This was really fun to do, by the way. It was really fun trying to imagine how I would imitate that scene, driving the Jeep down here, and figuring out how to make it look like the movie as much as possible. I think what we're going to do for the tour video as the finale, we're actually, of course, going to take the tour that goes through the park as guests would, but we're also going to be driving around in the Jeep and you know, trying to do this little scene where he runs into the Dilophosaurus. Although I don't really want to destroy the park. I guess I could in a new save file and have the Dilophosaurus escape and all that. I guess I could do that. Oh, I planted that one tree to represent the tree that he actually attaches the... What's it called? Is that a winch? Is that a winch? I don't know. What he uses to... or actually what he attempts to get his Jeep free with. I always click on the wrong buttons. That's really... It's almost impressive how I can still click the wrong buttons after all of this time I've spent in this game. You know, always when I'm looking for the trees, I go to the wrong button, but especially when I want to add water, well, always is a hyperbole, but I very frequently click on the path symbol when I actually want to add water. I guess because it's blue and it kind of looks like a flowing river, and I keep making that mistake. And as a crazy path lady, I should know better, but I don't. Adding a lot of trees for the Dilophosaurus to hide in. And of course, this is the fork in the road where I'm adding some trees to obscure his vision so he can have his run in. And that's where we're also going to be placing the sign that he actually runs over. It would be cool if the signs could be run over by the Jeeps. That would be funny. I'm pretty sure that's not the case. I'm pretty sure they're just going to either stop the Jeep in its track, or maybe it might even go through. No, I think it's gonna stop the Jeep in its track like an immovable object. But it would be funny if you could run over the signs. Placing our Triceratops. Fortunately, she's not sick. And now my two Proceratosaurus go in there, across from the Dilophosaurus.
Asset collection request received.
These guys I am going to keep. Most people agree that the Proceratosaurus is supposed to be in there. But I still have my questions about the Stegosaurus, the Baryonyx, the Metriacanthosaurus, and something else? No, I think those are the three. And maybe Stegosaurus.
Transportation underway.
I'm not really sure about those. About whether I should... Because right now I have the Stegosaurus, Metriacanthosaurus, and Baryonyx. I will be adding those in either in this video or in the next. But I'm not sure if I should keep those three.
Asset has been collected.
Because the sources don't agree on that. And I'm also not sure if I should introduce the Stegosaurus. Because I think it only shows up in the embryo chamber.
Asset to be collected. Asset requiring collection.
Placing one of Nedry's murderers.
Understood.
Okay, so after giving it a bit of a think, I decided that I would let the tour track sort of backtrack itself. So I'm still kind of trying to figure out how I'm going to implement that. But I'm going to undo a part of the river over there so I can cross back over. And then follow the same line back. Just so we only have one part where the road actually crosses the tour track. It's really annoying that when you want to add more track, you have to go all the way up to the building that I've hidden. Click on that, edit tour route, then go back down and continue with the track. Oh no, who's sick? So there you go, and now I'm just letting the two tracks follow one another. And this track is gonna go straight ahead. And it's actually going to follow the surface road down. So that's the road that also goes to the east dock. So the track partially shares that that bit with the Jeep road. It's really the only way I could logically make it work. So you know, use a bit of your imagination. Just imagine that there is a bit of a cliff there. And there's really only one part where both the tour track and the road can go down safely. Here we have the sign, which is kind of a pain to place because, as you can see right now, it's barely visible which way the arrow is pointing. So I think I go in with with capture mode to confirm that it is pointing the right way, and it is. So that's the sign that Nedry is gonna run over. I think the sign might be placed a little bit too far back from the cliff edge, because he picks up the knocked over sign when he gets out of the Jeep. So maybe I have to reconfigure the road just a little bit to have it closer, to have the fork of the road closer to the actual cliff itself. So maybe that's something I still need to change. Because right now he'd have to drag that sign for a pretty significant distance for him to be able to pick it up once he gets his Jeep stuck and he gets out of it. So, you know, that's one of the things... actually, I should add that to my list. I'm keeping a list of things I want to change, so I'm going to add that. So I'm just gonna write down how am I gonna write this? Change fork in road plus sign Nedry. I hope I'm still gonna know what that means in a day or two when I'm actually going to record that bonus video. One of the dinosaurs has low health. I should probably get to fixing that. But that's something that happens when I'm really in the zone with building. I don't really pay attention to the big red warning signs at the top of the screen. That's my bad. That's one of my many shortcomings. You know, even though it's not 100% movie accurate, I am pretty happy with how it's turning out. And, you know, I had a lot of fun with building this. And that's the most important thing, people. To have fun with it. Okay, so that's the road that he was supposed to go down. So we're going to place another sign there. And again, we can barely see it. But you sort of know which way to turn it based on how it's presented in the tab when you actually pick it up. When you select it, I should say. Oh, I'm turning on fighting, or combat rather, so the dinosaurs can eat from the goat feeders. Which is still so stupid that you have to turn on combat for the dinosaurs to be able to hunt the goats. I really thought they would fix that at some point. but they still haven't. Oh, gonna take a moment to save. There you go. Now that section is kind of a pretty big waste of space because it doesn't actually do anything. So that might be an issue if I need to add more species of dinosaur. But I think if I reconfigure it a little bit, like lay the track a little bit differently, I can fit in another enclosure there if necessary. By the what's currently the Stegosaurus exhibit. Adding a couple of big trees, or just one? Just one. I think I add a big tree here as well. Because I just love how the big tree looks. There you go. She loves it. I was kind of worried they were fighting because the population was all wrong, but of course that's still turned off, so I didn't have to worry about that. They were just establishing dominance. He's starving now, but he's gonna be okay. Once he figures out that he can hunt goats now, he's gonna be fine. Oh, the Triceratops doesn't have water. That's my bad. Trying to figure out where I can add water because I have so many placeable trees in there that it doesn't actually work. There. Now our lovely lady can have a drink. Let's give her some food as well. And then she's going to be all happy. Well, I should add some more Triceratops in there to really make her happy, give her a little herd. I'm placing a normal feeder just in case because I don't want them to starve while they figure out that they should just hunt the goats. So this is at the moment the Stegosaurus exhibit, so I'm adding a small carnivore sign. I was kind of hopeful that maybe there were more signs that, or a different sign that I could use. But small carnivore is the closest option that we have, so I'm just gonna drop that down over there after I give it a disproportionately long think. I love that you can hear the Brachiosaurus singing. In terms of sound effects, I always really love having Brachiosaurus and Dilophosaurus in my parks. I'm not the biggest fan of the Dilophosaurus. I think it just looks a little bit like a weird kangaroo, like a sickly kangaroo. But I really do love the sound effects. I think they're just so classic Jurassic Park that I love having them in my parks solely for that reason. Like, I visit them very rarely, but just those hooting and kind of bird-like sounds I really enjoy having in the park. But the Brachiosaurus sound effects are still the best. I'm gonna add another sign here. So on the right is where the jeeps are gonna come in when they come over from the helipad. And to the left is where you go down southeast towards the east dock, which is where Nedry goes. Just checking everything. Close enough, close enough. So yeah, we can definitely use that space to add another exhibit if I need to. If I need to add another species. Just going to make this part of the park look a little bit different by adding sand, which I only used around the raptor pen for the north side of the park. Adding some crack to make it look a little bit less like a beach. Oh, redwood trees, I miss you. I wanna play with you, but I can't. Yes, just eat the goat, please. Oh God. Nope, nope. Wrong. Okay, everyone is healthy. That's good. Now we're gonna move on and get started on the Baryonyx exhibit. Baryonyx is another one that not all of the internet sources agree on. I hadn't heard of the Baryonyx being part of the original Jurassic Park before I saw the map that I used as reference, but I do kind of like having it in there. You know, it's a different kind of dinosaur, a wetland dinosaur. Gives me an excuse to make a different looking exhibit too. So I do like having it, but if I should get rid of it, just let me know. I'm really indecisive when it comes to these sort of things. That's an interesting wetland exhibit technique, just going mental with the water brush. But it looks okay. It looks kind of swampy. It works. Gonna make it look a little bit more swampy with some shrubbery, starting with crag. Coastal is actually my favorite kind of foliage. But crag looks more creepy, I think. I never actually spent too much time over designing an exhibit. I just, you know, I plopped down some trees, trying to do it at a, trying to do it randomly, and do a good mix of trees as well. But I don't spend too much time on exhibits because I think they're just supposed to look natural. But it is something that I could definitely improve on my exhibit design because it's pretty basic. Now technically, because the tour goes by the Baryonyx exhibit, and then later it's also going to go by what is currently the Antisaurus exhibit. And of course we know from the movie that the movie doesn't suggest that there's anything between the Dilophosaurus, the Tyrannosaurus, and the Triceratops exhibits. So we just have to assume that they go by these exhibits, but they don't actually see anything, just like the encounter or lack of an encounter that they had by the Dilophosaurus exhibit. And let's just assume that the tour actually does go this route. Oh, what I'm also going to do is I'm going to add a bathroom here as well, one of the decorative restroom buildings. Because we all know that there was a restroom building by the Tyrannosaurus exhibit, but I think it makes sense for a tour like this to have at least 2 stops for a restroom break, so this felt like a natural place to add one of those restroom breaks. And what I did was I placed the restroom building itself, and I added a light to it. I'm scrolling through hoping that there is a sign for the restrooms. Unfortunately, there is not. So what I did was I added a light by the track and a light by the bathroom building. So that was sort of the indicator to guests that this is a point where they can get off and relieve themselves if things got a little bit too exciting or too scary. Or just dragging on too long. Going back to complete, or not complete, but continue our tour. Now, the track has a pretty big hill to climb, and I'm gonna do it in sort of a zigzag way at first, and smoothing and leveling it out a little bit better than it is now to make the climb not so steep. But I'm going to change that up in a minute, because I actually wanted to run the track by the fencing on the left to let it have a look into what is currently and maybe definitely the Tyrannosaurus exhibit. So right now I'm just creating these different levels that I'm smoothing out, and I'm going to have the track climb up that way. But I'm going to change that up later. So if you want to recreate that this park, my interpretation of the original Jurassic Park, just keep that in mind. Don't make the same mistakes I do. Okay, here we go. We're going to do a little bit of work on the Tyrannosaurus exhibit. So of course we're going to add the goat feeder right by the fence, so we can have it be visible from the tour track, which is gonna follow that curve. And let's see what else I do. Do I just skip over the rest of it? No, I'm going to add some trees. You know, there's really no rhyme or reason to how you design an exhibit. I just figured I'd add a ton of trees to obscure the line of sight into the exhibit. And for the big tree that the Ford Explorer with Tim gets stuck in by the, you know, when it gets thrown off the concrete moat, basically, I use the big tree for that. Even though it's big in the broad sense as opposed to big in the tall sense, it's just thematically it was the best fit to add there. So that's the tree that the Ford Explorer is gonna get thrown into. I've added some water in the back, so it's not going to be in a visible part of the exhibit, and also kind of give Rexy an excuse to stay on the other side of the exhibit, about 50-50%, because of course we know she's not supposed to be seen all the time. So if you have both the water and the feeder at the front, odds are that she's going to be at the front herself more often. There you can see the squiggly hairpin sort of way I've had the tour track come up. I hope I have remembered to cut that bit of footage, because it's really not important to show that part because I'm going to be redoing it. Right now, this is where I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to have the tour truck come up here and also give it visibility into that exhibit, that sickle-shaped exhibit where I'm going to be adding the Tyrannosaurus. I don't want to have the track view into that exhibit from the top, because I only want the Tyrannosaurus Rex exhibit to be viewed from that top. So that's why I decided to redo this part and have the track follow that fencing up to the top of the hill. So that's just what I'm going to be redoing at this point. So I'm just going to add levels like I always do, and then smooth it out so I can have a pretty gentle incline for the tour trucks to go up. There, and now that's how the tour vehicles will get a view of the Tyrannosaurus exhibit. And now I can just focus on how to approach the Tyrannosaurus exhibit. Of course, in the movie they come through a tunnel. We can't do that. So I just had the... I left quite a bit of space on either side of the track, so I could raise the terrain up in as steep as possible hills to mimic the tunnel effect of the that surrounds the tour track, that just closed-in feeling. And that's where we're gonna go down through the Triceratops exhibit. We're just going to follow along the raised ledge over there, and that's where they're going to have a view down into the Triceratops exhibit. And I'm taking the track behind the raptor pen and connecting it directly to the tour building. What I actually want to do in the bonus video is also find a way to take the track through the Gallimimus and Brachiosaurus exhibit. I didn't do that here because that's not really a part of the movie of the Ford Explorers going through the Gallimimus and Brachiosaurus exhibit. But of course we know that the tour trucks are forced to go back when the storm hits, so it's logical that we don't actually see that. You do see that in the online maps that have been published, that the tour does go through those two exhibits, as of course it makes sense that it does. So I need to figure out how to actually do that. So here I'm raising the terrain up, like I said, to mimic that that tunnel. Actually going to delete the tree so I can see what I'm doing and get as close to the track as possible. If you've noticed, I actually turned off the sound for the footage that you're watching right now. A problem that I have with this particular recording program is that if I record for too long, the sound gets messed up. It starts to sound really crackly, like it's coming over a walkie-talkie or something. So it's just easier at this point to switch it off so it's not a distraction. But that's something I have to keep in mind when recording. I really have to stop recording after like 35 minutes. I think that's the max. And after that, with every passing minute, the odds increase that the sound is gonna get messed up. So that's why you're gonna be missing some sound at this point. I do apologize for that. It's not gonna happen in future videos. Those are shorter. Actually, we only have one more of the regular building episodes after this one, and it is a little bit shorter. It's just, you know, all of the finishing work. And yeah, so we only have one more episode to go for the build itself. Then we have the bonus episode, and then we're going to do the tour as the finale. And if you don't want to miss out on any of those episodes, please consider subscribing to the channel and hitting the bell to get notified of new uploads so you don't miss a single episode. And for now, thank you so much for watching and for supporting the channel. I hope that that you are enjoying this park building video, and I hope you'll join me for the next. Thank you very much, and until next time, enjoy the game.